Next slide.
Yes, please.
I was just checking to see if they could hear you well.
Okay.
There you go.
Anyway, I
I
just
couldn't
wanted
hear you when I.
This is my family, and I just wanted you to know that I homeschooled, and we did all sorts of sports and fun things together. Next slide. And this right here is a picture of our homeschool in our business, up there on the left. And then up in the right, you see a checkbook. This is a fake checkbook, and I put into this fake checkbook a fake $500, and my kids right away learned how to balance a checkbook. I might need a little light on what I'm reading, folks.
There's a light on the stand, correct?
No, it's not plugged in.
Oh, okay. Just a
That's not good
little.
enough.
Yeah, that's perfect, right there.
We can see that. We can see it.
Okay, but in any event, so they learned how to balance a checkbook, and they also started to shop for bargains wherever they went, and were good stewards of their money very early on in life. And now my daughter works on Wall Street as a financial analyst.
Wow.
So it works, family.
Hook me
Next
up.
slide. And these are more pictures of us doing what we call co-op homeschooling, which is with other groups in local communities, and we're doing a Civil War Day here. And then, of course, I have a handicapped sister right here, Pammy. She's been brain damaged from birth, and so, of course, being around very handicapped children was really important to us, so our kids got to do an awful lot of volunteer work with such people. I think that's really important. Then we have no excuse in our lives for complaining when you see other people who can't do even some of the basic things. Next slide. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about California, a legislator's job. And of course this is basic, we all know this, but a legislator's job is to make laws. So when we elect these people into office, that's their job, to make laws. Next slide. So in California, in our state, we have a supermajority and have for the last 30 years. And this is where all the trouble begins, and why I'm talking about this, because over 2,300 bills are introduced by our state legislature every year. They make laws, and all they do is make laws. And they're rewriting God's law over and over again. So we have a supermajority with 94 Democrats to 26 Republicans. So if you don't like what's going on, who are you going to blame? Right? We have no voice in California, and I will say we do still have a voice, but it has to be extremely loud and extremely persistent. So we do have a voice, but that's the problem that we have. It's like a pinball machine. You just pull it, ping, ping, ping. We're pinging around on issues all the time, and as soon as we get done with one, they throw another one at us. So this is part of the Sololinsky method, crisis management, keep it coming until we wear everybody out. But nonetheless, let's go on to see what our supermajority is doing to us here in California. Next slide. And, no, the other slide. Just the others, there we go. Just real quick, just a few. Comprehensive sex education is now taught in our public schools, which promotes pornography. That's all that is. It's forcing public school teachers to promote homosexuality and genderism.
Perversion.
Our K through 12 books are promoting homosexuality. Seriously, there's this we talk about perversion. We're just preoccupied with sex all the time in this country. What the heck? I mean, if you really stop and think about it, it's below the belt. What happened to the heart and the mind? Everything is below the belt. When are we going to have character and integrity in this country? We got to stop this preoccupation. But meanwhile, our state loves it. You've got bathrooms with transgender men, which is really, female, male, male, female. Pronoun usage, choose your gender. Mental health is banned for sexual orientation. I find that one criminal. I really do. When you have a young child, they're questioning their gender. 90% of the kids who are right now experimenting with their gender, if left alone, will choose their biological gender. Did you know that? 90% on average.
96.
But what do? We keep on affirming their decision. Okay, so they want to make California a transgender sanctuary state. That means that if somebody is injured by transgenderism, that we can't sue the state or sue anybody for it. They're putting Planned Parenthood sites on high school campuses. They want to put vending machines with condoms. Thankfully, that did be defeated on this term, but they keep coming back with bizarre things. Like, who would even think of that? I thought vending machines were for soda and chips, right? No, not condoms now. Okay, and they have these bills, they continue to have these bills, and I'm going to share a couple where they can, the school can take your kids away from you. I mean, don't you just want to send your kids to that school where you run the risk of losing your children just because you might not affirm their gender? That's crazy. Oh, and then one of the other ones, they are going to be, they've gone the ballot that, remember we worked really hard about 10 years ago for the Proposition 8 battle, or maybe more than that, 2008, what is it now?
15 years ago.
My goodness. Well, because we're in a supermajority, okay, so if you and I want to put a bill on the ballot, we have to run around and get 750,000 signatures. What an effort that is, like the school choice bills, 750,000 signatures. That's time consuming, that's money, it's heartache. But a supermajority, all they have to do is vote a bill in and they put it on the ballot. And they're doing it again. They're going to remove the words man and woman from the California Constitution. It's on the ballot this year in 2024.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Wow.
And we have to make sure that we vote against that. We need to get the word out about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a website. How many of you were at the Republican Party and came to our Judeo-Christian caucus by any chance? Okay, wasn't that great?
It was great.
It was great, I know. So part of the Judeo-Christian caucus is that we do bills on the website, judeochristiancaucus.com. And by the way, don't remember all this, just go to our one website, saltandlightcouncil.org, and you my business card's over there.
Yeah.
And it will take you to a suite of ministries, and you can pick and choose what to do. But on this particular one, I highly recommend that you make your presence known inside of the parties, because particularly if you're choosing the party that stands for pro-life and pro-marriage between a man and a woman, because even that party, which is Republican, the Democrats again are pro-abortion, all the way up to after the baby is born, and then including pro-transgenderism at any age, puberty blockers and the rest. So, you know, as a Christian, I have to pick a side. And I stand firmly on the side that chooses life. I am not choosing death and the manipulation and the mutilation of our children. Why would anybody in their right mind do that? Why? I absolutely don't understand. Oh, I know what. You make billions of dollars doing it. The pharmaceutical industry is making billions now. Prescribing hormone treatments and puberty blockers and then transgender treatments. It's crazy. But anyway, so we do have some victories that came out of Sacramento just recently, because right now we're at the end of the year and all the bills are on Governor Newsom's desk. And so right now he is choosing whether to veto them or to pass them. So we did get a veto on insurance covering abortion and abortion-related gender-affirming care. Yay! Okay, we did get a veto on decriminalizing hallucinogens for persons at 21 years old. Yay! We did get this one, you know, the condoms free of charge. They were going to just distribute condoms free of charge. They're not going to do that. Yay!
Wow.
Right? Right? I mean, you know, whose right mind would you be
Demonic.
distributing condoms? Why are we sending our kids to this kind of an environment? I mean, seriously, why? I mean, I love all the teachers that are there, and they're trying to do their level best, but this is a no-win situation, and I'm going to show you how. But in any event, oh yeah, and then another yay is that they were going to try to silence parents from school board meetings if somebody on the school board had substantial emotional distress from a parent speaking to them about what's in the school books that these kids are learning. And they have emotional distress over the same book that the kids are reading in public school. Okay, but that's a yay. Okay, now, the boo, or the scary ones still left out there, are that we still have doctors prescribing abortion and gender meds for persons in other states where the treatment is illegal. They can come here and get all these treatments prescribed here. Okay, and also still on his desk is that requiring the teachers and the staff to get LGBTQ training. They're gonna brainwash you until you finally cave.
Wow.
And of course, the marriage one on the ballot. And then, and children being placed in group homes, removes the requirement that for children to be placed in group homes without parental permission. In other words, they can take your kids still away from you because there must be a risk of harm in the home with either abuse or incest. And who's determining that? Abuse or incest? The kids going to the school and complaining to the nurse there, oh, my daddy or my mommy or whatever it is, and the next thing you know, this kid is put somewhere else. And it allows them to seek mental health treatment without parental involvement. Can you just picture it? A 12-year-old that you can manipulate their mind. This is a perfect scenario. This is Marxism at its best. Okay. Anyway, that's California. Welcome to California, people. But here's the thing. I'm pretty sick of it. How many of you are? We are going to fix this mess. We're going to get rid of every one of those bums. We're going to toss them out. We're going to get new people in there that have biblical and moral values. This is what happens when you forget God and you make yourself God. And I'm going to show you how that works. Next slide. Next slide. So again, JudeoChristianCaucus.com is where you can find the bills and resolutions. And by the way, there's no excuse now to say you don't know what's going on in Sacramento, because our website is updated literally, if not every 3 or 4 days, because things happen really fast in assembly and here, there, we don't know what's going on, but we are on top of it. Now, we can't do all the 2,300 bills, but we can certainly do the bills that hit the moral issues, and we do that. Next slide. Okay, this is where, Scott, you wanted me to talk a little bit about Biblical Voter. Okay, this is an amazing website, and you definitely need to go and sign that sheet back there if you want to be on our mailing list. But biblicalvoter.com, we also have business cards, I believe, back there, is one of the top websites in the nation for voting. It has all states and all voter guides that are conservative or Christian in those states. Isn't that amazing? And we do that ourselves. It's amazing what we do. We do this for you so that there's no excuse to say, well, I don't know who to vote for. Now you do, because we find every voter guide. As a matter of fact, if you have voter guides in this area that are not listed there, you just call me and we put it on. When we know who our good people are that are doing the right thing and working really hard to vet candidates, we're going to put it up there. And speaking of vetting, over there I have a 5-question questionnaire called the Family First Pledge, and it has been highly successful. It's simply asking a candidate, are you pro-life, pro-marriage between a man and a woman, pro-parental rights, pro-free market principles, and pro-right of conscience. 5 only. We use it all over the country, and when a candidate signs that, or we hand it to them and say, you're running for such a, great, here's the pledge, or you can find it on Biblical Voter. I'm giving you 1 week to sign it, and if you don't, you're going to be a no. That's how you do it, people. Quit messing around with these candidates who blah, blah, blah all day long, and then when they get into office, they do absolutely nothing and they turn on you. You hold their feet to the fire now before they get into office, and you find out if they have a moral fiber in them anywhere inside of their body. And if they do, they're going to have the courage enough to stand up for the life issue publicly and stand up against this transgenderism and the decriminalization, the criminalizing of our children to have their body parts pulled off. Yes. You have to get these people to commit. Okay, and that little pledge does that for you. So that's another value statement on biblicalvoter.com. So you have the voter guides, you have the party platforms where you can then just snip it all those people in your district that are the ones to vote for. Now you have a slate and you know who to vote for. In addition to that, we have a booklet, which I hope you will all take advantage of. You have to buy it. These aren't free because everything I do mostly is free, but I need some money somewhere. Please, please, please. If anybody wants to donate to us, you have picked a good cause. But what this booklet is, it's a pocket guide for anyone, and please, I ask you to give this to all your Democrat friends, particularly the ones who are Christian. We stand on the Bible, which is our platform, and then we pick either the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. And they have platforms that tell you exactly what they're going to do to you. So I'm going to read a few, and you tell me, and you can pick and decide who's who in the zoo, all right? Okay, difference between Democrat, Republican. One mentions Bible, the other doesn't. One mentions Creator, the other doesn't. One mentions prayer.
The other
The other
doesn't.
doesn't.
One mentions pastors.
The other
The other
doesn't.
doesn't.
One mentions fathers.
The other
The other
The other
doesn't.
doesn't.
One mentions morality.
The other
Wow.
doesn't.
One mentions traditional marriage.
The
The
other
other
doesn't.
definitely doesn't.
One mentions sanctity of human life.
The other doesn't.
One mentions traditional religious beliefs.
The other
The other does
doesn't.
not.
One mentions the Declaration of Independence.
The other doesn't.
Barely.
One mentions God bless America.
The other
The other
doesn't.
Okay. And now I'm just going to read a few that are not like that. One mentions Christian 8 times and Muslim 1 time. The other mentions Christian 1 time and Muslim 8 times. One mentions God 15 times and LGBT 0. The other mentions God 1 time and LGBT 26 times. Listen, there's
Perversion.
60 of these in here. They will snap your mind. When you find out, Psalm 1 says, are you going to stand in the way of the sinner, walk in the way of the wicked, or sit in the seat of the mocker? Well, I'm telling you, if you're a Christian and you're voting Democrat, I am really sorry, but you are one of those people. And it's about time you get your head screwed on straight and you teach your friends and help your friends. And you know what? God did not put us on this earth to have a comfortable and sweet life. In fact, a lot of people are leaving California saying, God called me. No, God didn't call me. You just want to get into a more comfortable zone. Right?
They're running.
They're running because they just want their creature comforts.
Yes.
Okay, but listen, people, you have a job. God has commissioned you for a job here on earth, and you better seize the opportunity, or when you get to heaven, he's going to say, what'd you do with my son? Who are you, and what did you do? Well, he's not going to say it like that. He's going to say, what did you do with my son? What was your value to the people on earth when you had a chance? You must use your voice, and you must say what needs to be said, and you need to do it now while you have a chance. You are not on this earth for your own purposes. You are here on this earth for God's purposes. You have been commissioned and anointed for a specific job. Now get out and do it, and part of it means you're going to suffer. Being a Christian or being someone of faith means you are going to suffer, because there are going to be more people that are opposing your viewpoint, because you're the only hand that goes out here and says, stop. No, that's evil. We're the only ones that are standing up to these bills. Where's all the rest of the people out there? Okay? So you're not alone. You need to get involved. Every Christian needs to get involved. And that's the reason why Biblical Voter is here, is to help you get involved and to help every one of your churches. So please, I'm asking you to ask your pastors to put that sign during elections, biblicalvoter.com, up on their screen, and send people to the website to know where to vote. It's as simple as that. Also on the website is candidate training and a few other tools. Next slide. I feel like I'm breathing into this. Okay, now, the other thing is this purple brochure called Salt and Light. You are the salt of the earth, and if you don't sprinkle the salt out there and add flavor to the world, your salt is good for nothing except to be trampled on by men. And I think we're being trampled on. We've laid down like the ground to be walked over. God said, I took this cup of fury from you, but we pulled the cup of fury back. So folks, it's about time we become salt. Sprinkle the flavor, but also salt can sting when, people have wounds that are open, and sometimes they need a little sting in their life. And light, we're to be a city on a hill, and we're to go out there and shine the light on the darkness. If not, who are we? What are we made of? What's our muster inside of our souls and our body? What are we really made of? Or when we just get intimidated by someone saying, oh, you bigot, you homophobe, you hater, which, by the way, George Soros spent $7 billion in a marketing campaign to paint you as that. None of it is true. We're none of those things. We love everybody, but we see a lot of hurt and pain, and people who choose lifestyles like this have been abused in their lives, or something dramatic has happened. So of course we're loving to them. But we can't have them changing the laws and we live under their rule when God's rule is all that remains. Okay, so anyway, Salt and Light is a program where, how many of you go to church again? Most of you, right? Please take this brochure and go to your pastor. You have an assignment today. And that's to go to your pastor with this brochure and say, Pastor, we'd like to start a Salt and Light ministry in this church. And I would like to lead it. Now, if you don't think I'm going to be the leader, that's okay. Maybe I could be involved in it, but let's get this ministry started. So, Pastor, when will you be able to give me an answer? Well, I don't know, so-and-so, I don't know. Well, I really need an answer because I need to know if this church is a Salt and Light church. And then you get a commitment out of him, whether it's a week or 2 weeks or whatnot, and you hold him accountable. Because if he comes back to you and says, well, my elder board said, we can't do that, you say to them, well, then you won't say this to the pastor. You might just shake your head and say, I wish this church a lot of luck and blessing, whatever it is. But I would say shake the dust off your feet and go to a church that will. Because we don't have time to wait for these pastors to get off their blessed assurance and be the men of God that they were destined to be. I don't know about you, but we're losing our country to Marxism. We've lost every one of our institutions, and we're sitting around here playing games still. 501c3 status, give me a break. You know what, the Democrats and the leftists, they don't care about all that stuff. They march through every church, they wear Obama hats, they do whatever it takes. We are a biblical and a scriptural ministry. We have them in 26 states, and we have some of the top leaders in the nation that are behind our ministry, including Matt Staver, who's chairman of the board. And he gives you a legally vetted ministry. This is a top-of-the-line ministry. It doesn't get any better. This is your solution. I am giving you real solutions today. I don't want to hear anybody say, well, what we're supposed to do about it. When I leave here, I'm giving you exactly your marching orders, exactly what you're to do. If you go to church, be the salt and light. And get your church to be the salt and light, or find a church that will be. That's 1, salt and light. 2, use a biblical voter. And number 3, help your church start its own school. Okay? And also, exit all of your kids out of the public school as fast as you can before they are ruined. I guarantee you that your I was injured in a public school, but if you look back into your lives, if you went to public school, you had some form of injury yourself. I'll bet you did. Here's what you need to think about. You know how bad it is for our kids now? Okay, next slide. We have a lot more to go over. Okay, now this is where the rubber meets the road. I want to talk about the National Education Association. Okay, so my family is an immigrant to America like many of you. We came from Finland and we came here for a better way of life, for American excellence. Okay, but I'm a little concerned about education now because it is not excellent in America, period. And just remember this one thing, all education is religious, okay? So this book, I challenge all of you to read this book because it will absolutely blow your mind, so please write this book down and get it. We're going to talk about the history of education, so very briefly. In the 1600s, when America was founded, we had a really perfect system of education. We had homeschooling, and then we had church one-room schoolhouses. And this is what built America. We had men and women of godly character, and they gave birth to this incredible nation and all the freedoms that we experience: religion, assembly, petition our government, speech, etc. We have all of these rights, and we became one of the wealthiest, most freest countries in the world, and everybody has the right to build their own businesses and create wealth, right? That's what America was all about in the 1600s. In the 1700s, 100 years later, Robert Owen came on the scene. He's the father of socialism in America, and he joined with the Unitarians, and they insisted on a common education for all, based on the socialist Prussian model. It was a form of Christianity. The Unitarians are a form of Christianity. They deny the Trinity, and they're more of man's reasoning. So the Unitarians wanted God out, and man to decide for himself how to run his life. Now what I'm about to say is probably the most important thing you're going to hear from me today, and I really do want you to remember this. If you don't have a culture that is theological, theology, it's the study of God, then you are forced into a psychological society, which is the study of man, your own mind, sans God. No more God, And that's exactly what they did in the 1700s. They introduced, and they knew it at the time, psychology to replace theology. And at the time they considered psychology pseudoscience. So for all the psychologists out there, if you're not using psychology from a Christian standpoint, it really is, sorry, fake science. And that's exactly what's happened to America. We went, instead of outward, to the study of God and how God applies to our life in every aspect of life, and how we're kind to each other, and we treat our neighbors with kindness, and we do good for others, and we give to the church, and we're just good people. We just make an effort to be restrained. What happens? No, when you remove God, then there are no restraints. You can do anything you want. Live up your life any old way you want. And the more perversion and whatnot, apparently, the better, because that's where our country is going, because we have given up on God. So anyway, that's a really important point. You need to know that. So that was in the 1700s. In the 1800s, along comes a man named Horace Mann. He became the first Secretary of Education, and he also believed in centralized control and get the Bible out of school. And he also agreed with Robert Owen and the Unitarians. So you see this 200-year march now through the institutions to remove Christianity, because we were a society totally 100% based on theology. Now they have to slowly figure out how to remove that. So then they started the National Education Department in 1857, and it was an endless push on Christians to accept this centralized form of education. And they refused to do it until they threw some money at the Catholics. And then the Catholics said, sure, why not? We'll give it we'll put it on an experimental basis. Well, you know how these experiments work when you get government money, right? And here we are. Okay, then John Dewey comes into the scene in the late 1800s. Not the Dewey with the Dewey Decimal System, different one. And he said, he was a socialist, and he said, high literacy is an obstacle to socialism. Folks, it's been going on since the early 1700s.
Smarter people are an obstacle to...
Right, exactly. High literacy is an obstacle to socialism. This is the government school. When I read this book, I said, that's it, I'm done. I will never look at a public school again the same, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get everybody out of there as fast as I can. And I'm going to ask all the teachers to get out, and let's start private schools. Okay? Now, I'm not done, because John Dewey, he was an experimentalist. He loved to use these kids as lab rats. So in 1896, they introduced the look-say whole word reading method, and all of a sudden, whew, there goes dyslexia. Okay, now I want you to look up there and take the word association. Pretend like you don't know any phonics at all, and I want you to say that over and over again. Association, association. So hundreds of times you're asked to repeat these words. This is called the look-say, until you memorize it. But they don't teach you to say association, which is more of a which is phonetics. Okay, this is the problem. So when you have friends that have dyslexia, send them to a good phonics course. Isn't that crazy? And they're still teaching that today in the public schools, and a kind of a modern version of phonics as well. Okay, so John Dewey, now here's another thing. You know, America has the Constitution, but did you know that the National Education Association has their own constitution? It's called the Humanist Manifesto.
Wow.
And here's John Dewey signed on to it. The president of Planned Parenthood signed on to it. Here's what it says, or here's what's in it. No God, and there is no soul, no need for religion. Oh, and it will be replaced with science and evolution. Oh, and by the way, on the subject of evolution, it's a lie. You know that, right? This is a theory. They're playing games with our minds, and we're supposed to accept millions of years. Oh wait, no, now it's billions of years. Wait, next week it'll be trillions of years. They've disproved carbon dating, and we know for a fact that the first human on Earth was here around 12,000 years ago. What are they talking about? Were they there? This is all made-up junk science. Here we go again, so that our kids don't believe that their life is of any importance or value whatsoever. But when you know that you're part of just a small group of people, you have value and importance. That's exactly why they're teaching it. And in a 1968 Supreme Court, they ruled out the teaching of intelligent design and the creator out of the public schools. Did you know that? Nobody knows that. We're teaching junk science to our kids. Gosh, this is so great. You know what? Sign me up for that. I want to make sure all my kids and grandkids and future generations go to the public school to learn transgenderism, junk science, dumbed down. How many of you want to send your kids to that? All right. In addition, they're going to shape their minds, and they've changed the word now from psychology to social emotional learning.
Yeah.
And the man is the center of all things. So remember that. Theology is God, which used to be, now can you imagine if our society came back to being a theological society? Oh, God bless America. But right now we're a psychology. Me, 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 me. That's what pride is all about. Me. Okay, anyway. Courts and the politicians are helping the NEA create an educational dictatorship. In their own words, schools cannot allow children, this is NEA said this. The schools cannot allow parents to influence the kind of values education their children receive in schools. Our goals are incompatible with theirs. We must change their values.
Wow.
They're a labyrinth. Oh, and they fund the Democrat Party. You know they're the largest funder of the Democrat Party? For every $2, they spend $1. But for every $2 they spend on Democrat issues, they spend $1 on representing members. And on their website, if you go there, you will see all the progressive list of organizations. They print it. It's on their website, which is amazing, and nobody says anything. So in California, we have 9,000 public schools, 977 districts, 319,000 teachers. Now think about that. What a brilliant strategy the public school system is for political power. And every one of those 319,000 teachers is funding the Democrat Party. Is that crazy? They're brilliant. Evil is just brilliant. Okay, so I know that there are a lot of people that want to run for school boards, but I have to say no amount of running for school boards is going to change this beast. And no amount of trying to change the curriculum is going to change it either. So that's why I promote a complete exit of the public schools, because I think that's the safest route. And frankly, all you need are 2 sets of 15 years with a biblical worldview education. In 30 years, we could see this country change back to its foundational principles and back to something more loving and kind instead of all this hate and death and Hamas stuff. What is all this? These people on our college campuses, promoting Hamas. This is the death camp. Have our children really lost their minds completely? Actually, yes. I mean, there is no question about it. The government schools and the colleges, why are you spending all that money to send your kids to a Marxist camp? Why? I mean, you're at fault if you do it. It's as simple as that. You send your kids there, you're the problem in America. You send your kids to public school, you're a problem. And I mean that. Next slide. Okay, so again, public school teachers are all required to read this book, Rules for Radicals, and it's dedicated to Lucifer, how to undo a society, and the path to do it. Next slide. Okay, if our public school system was so great, why are all these books being written? Broken system, scam, already gone, inside American education, knowledge gap, battle for the mind. What's happening in our schools? Do you see this? Next slide. If it was so great. And this, of course, how many of you have seen this already?
Yeah.
Wow, they've sold something like 20 million copies of this, and this is for age 9. It's in the libraries in some of the public schools around the country. It's cartoon pornography. This is how they're trying to get our kids to be desensitized and have sex earlier and earlier in life. This is just a Marxist strategy to break down society. You know that. Because when you have modesty and restraint, you have character and dignity, you have a higher standard for yourself and for society. But when you have lost all your integrity and your soul and you've sold it out completely, you'll take anything. You have destroyed your soul. Next slide. Okay, you can watch this video.
Oh, okay. So it's video time.
We'll just watch one of these. I have a lot to still do there. Can you hear it? Do you want to put that on there?
Oh, yeah, maybe I can use that. Otherwise I have to Bluetooth it and I haven't done that.
Watch out, it's blocking the screen.
Where the speaker is. It's on the bottom. Right?
Oh, yeah. You can hear it, you can put it on that side over there.
Okay, you guys hear American school children are convicted in anything.
They're teaching these kids X-rated sex acts.
When we look at this radical agenda, the way our children are being exploited and the way parents are getting shut out, it comes down to one fundamental question. Whose children are they?
Whose children are they?
Yeah.
They can't
You
tell
can
me
end it
something
now.
new.
Oh, it's
Whose
in.
children
Yeah, it's
are
only a
they?
quick video.
Okay.
I have a bunch of quick videos, so if we're gonna do it again, we'll visit through. Okay, next slide. Okay, so many of you have seen this book called Irreversible Damage, The Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. If you don't, get that book, it's amazing, it's scary. But anyway, I want to talk about some of these things that are in the public schools so you're absolutely clear what's going on. Okay, you have the propaganda and ideologies with the goal of turning your kids against God, church, family, country, morality. They're dumbing down and making our kids illiterate because that's the goal of socialism. 2/3 of our 8th graders are not proficient in any core subject. Did I tell you that California is 47th and
Interesting.
what was it? No, they're 43rd in the national rankings with only 84% graduating and less than half meeting English standards and 1/3 meeting math standards. Oh my gosh, I want to send my kids to that school. Don't you? Oh my gosh, I really want to send my kids there. And I also want to send my kids to a place where they're going to get radical sexual education, promotion of homosexuality, fornication, gender confusion. And I want my kids also to get a survey to tell them all about me as a parent. You know, do we have any arguments at home? Do we have guns at home? So they can know everything about our family. I want my entire family and everything that we do known to the entire public school system and government. Wrong. They want to know about your family arguments. And they have put surveys in front of the kids to know about this. They're infringing on our parental rights by giving these kids abortions if they want them, because they're promoting sex right away with comprehensive sex ed. By the way, that's how to have sex, not how to abstain from sex. How to have it. Taking puberty blockers, getting sex reassignment surgery without parental consent and told to lie to their parents. Wait, isn't that commandment number 5? No, 5 is honoring
Number
mother and
9.
father.
Number 9. Nope.
Number 9.
9.
Do not lie. Do not lie. Good job, Arthur. The Bible speaks a great deal about education, and it speaks clearly about the primary responsibility, and that belongs to the government indoctrination camps. Yes? Did I hear anybody on that one? No. Who's the responsibility to train up your kids in the way they should go? To who?
Parents, moms and dads.
Parents. Yes. You have the primary, and there are some pastors out there that say it's sinful for parents to hand their kids over to a godless, anti-Christian government school. I kind of agree with them. I think it's a sin. And what I know now about the National Education Association, I have to say, there is nothing good about it, except to destroy this country and your kids. They're also teaching fake history and how to hate their country, their heritage, America's founding fathers, and the biblical principles on which this country was founded. They're teaching pseudoscience. I've already told you about that with evolution. Secularism, and of course, man-made global warming hypothesis, another hypothesis that they're going to try to sell you as fact. There's an epidemic of violence, depression, suicide, self-harm, murder, fornication, gangs, and drug use. Oh gosh, sign me up for this school.
Oh, brother.
I really want to go. I want to send all my kids, right?
Sounds like hell.
It is hell. Thank you. You know what? Public schools are like sending your kids into a burning building. You know they're going to get scorched. They may not survive. And we're doing it every day.
Yep.
every day.
And there's rampant child abuse.
It's a child abuse.
And not just the destructive, the teachers are preying on the kids now.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, then you also, the vaccinations, oh, this is unbelievable. The kids are getting vaccinated, right? So it's not bad enough you have your childhood vaccinations, but now they're going to do all sorts of vaccinations. You hear all the advertisements for Gardasil, HPV, this, that, and the other. Well, do you know that the CDC on their website recommends 75 vaccinations for every child before the age of 17? Now, if they pass that in California, that your kids can consent to get the vaccination all on their own, what do you think that's going to look like? Number one, these pharmaceutical companies are immune from lawsuits, so they're going to just pump it through as much as they can into these government indoctrination camps. And then teachers are going to get paid, or the nurses, I guess, a bonus for promoting them, just like doctors do with their certain medications. They get kickbacks and whatnot. You see how this is going to go? And your kids are going to wind up with paralysis, autism, mental retardation, all irreversible. Gosh, sign me up. Okay, and then of course, you know all about this white privilege, intersectionality, Black Lives Matter, critical race theory. I mean, come on, we're the bad guys now. And social emotional learning is basically about exposing your kids to too much information before. Basically, their social emotional learning snaps the mind of a minor when they're 4 or 5 years old because they can't handle adult information. Think about those little kindergartners that walk out of the room and come back a boy, go out a girl, come back a boy, or vice versa, right? Who taught them that? This poor little child is being abused for life. The chances of them surviving and growing up to have a normal life are just tragic. And you can't do that to a little child. They are not mentally able to handle this type of adult information. Next slide. Okay. Chloe Cole, just real quick, how much time do I have? I'm going to have to wrap it up here, but these are some examples. Layla Jane, and in fact, the lawyer that's handling this is Chuck Lamondre. He's down in San Diego, and I know him extremely well. But she is suing the hospital for performing a sex change on her at 13. They gave her cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers, and a double mastectomy between the ages of 12 to 13 after only a 75-minute evaluation.
25.
Can you imagine that?
11.
You talk about abuse, unbelievable. She has terrible regrets, emotional, physical. She's suffering in every way, neurologically, psychologically. She's had mutilation to her body, fertility risks, health risks. It's just unbelievable. So they're suing the medical professionals with the following terminology. You performed supervised and/or advised transgender hormone therapy and surgical intervention for Layla when she was between the ages of 12 to 17 years old, which constitutes a breach of standard of care. You also performed acts that constitute intentional fraud and concealment. But I have to tell you, I think our medical industry has gone crazy. I don't trust them. I don't trust them. I don't want to go to a doctor anymore. I don't think, not very many of my friends want to, not for any reason.
They want us to give to children's hospitals.
Oh,
They're doing it.
yeah, and children's hospitals too. Oh my gosh.
Sick.
We need to repent of our sins in this nation and get down on our knees and pray for this country because of the direction we're going. Chloe Cole, she has painful effects of transitioning. She lost all of her trust in the medical industry, double mastectomy at 15, puberty blockers at 13. She was diagnosed with dysphoria at age 12. But her parents were told that she would commit suicide if she didn't transition. Now this, in my opinion, is bullying of the parents. When we know fully well that if these kids left alone and not promoted in this stuff, will choose their gender. Where is all this coming from? So there's a lot that has to do with social media, but also they're learning this in the public schools, and that's why you have to get your kids out. Next slide. Yeah, you keep going, because I don't have time. Keep going, unless you want to. Okay, facts and stats. I wanted to share this with you. Next slide. Next. Okay, so I'm about done. But anyway, regarding the government schools, 1 in 4 children aged 12 to 17 are now gender non-conforming. Half of the students no longer read at grade level. Only 37% of the 12th grade students perform at grade level. Are you hearing this? And a new study shows that there's an increase in youth suicide correlating to attending public school. Gosh, sign me up. I want to go there because I want to learn. I want to be so emotionally disturbed that I'm going to commit suicide. Only 50% of the kids that leave high school still believe in Jesus. But here's the good news. That's why I'm here with Public School Exit and why you need to get out. The top reason for homeschooling is the concern over the school environment, and rightly so. Performance is 42% better on standardized tests, 78% better on academic achievement. They're actively recruited by colleges, and it saves America about $56 billion a year of taxpayer money, and it stops the funding of the Democrat Party. Praise God. Next slide. How much time do we have? Okay, I'm not going to go through this, but this is on our website, the options, methods, and styles for how to homeschool. And by the way, I never thought I could be a homeschool mom, but I managed, and I want to help you as a grandparent with your grandkids, as a parent, to help all of your kids. So you just call, we have a consultation call every Friday, so I hope you'll give me a call. Just sign up for them on our website, Public School Exit. Next slide. Just keep flashing through for a while. Oh, here, just real quick, I'll just show you one slide. If your homeschooling is as simple as the cost of books for the whole year, and you save money, and you don't have to drive all over Tarnation and drop your kids off. I oftentimes wonder, why don't parents send their kids to public? We've just been brainwashed that this is a rite of passage to send our kids there so we can go do our Zumba classes. Or we feel like we have to have two incomes. You know what? You don't. Somebody could do a part-time job and you can still homeschool. You only need 3 hours a day to homeschool. And besides that, you have the teacher's answer book. Or we have Lydia we can call for answers. Listen, this is not that hard, and we're here to help. I want you to know you have 3 solutions today. Getting your church, you and your church involved, having all your voting tools, and how to save this republic by the education of our children. 2 sets of 15 years, and we've got this made, people, but it takes a team to make this happen. You're the team. You have hereby been anointed. Next slide. Next. 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 Keep nexting. Keep going. Next. Next. This is our board. I just wanted you to know. Next slide. This is more of our board up here. You can recognize some of them. Sam Sorbo is part of it. Rebecca Friedrichs. We have an incredible team. So if you have a church that wants to start a form of education system at your church, we're here to help, and I can take you through about 5 different ways to make that happen. And you can literally have a school started in 2 weeks. We'll come in one night, do an educational night, and we will have your church ready to roll. In fact, we can do that with Salt and Light. If you could have your pastor have me come in and speak, and I'll give a 10 to 12 minute rousing Salt and Light speech, I guarantee you that we'll have 10 to 20% of your church signed up to be Salt and Light. We have an instant ministry. We just need your pastor to say yes and get the ball rolling. Next slide. Skip this. Don't have time. Skip it. We have a bunch of resources, including for teachers, down on the bottom right. We have the top of the line curriculum. No need to worry about that. We also, this is a research tool. If you want to give your own speeches to your own groups on the public education system, we have facts and stats. Everything you need is all in this one website. Next slide. And if you notice, these are the graphs on the differences between those that attend a government school. This is it. Dumber than a doornail. We want to sign our kids up for that. And then up here is a traditional Christian school, which, by the way, you do have to be careful of the Christian schools because they don't necessarily have true biblical worldview training nor the proper education, and also they're hiring teachers from the public school system that are still teaching the kids in a secular manner. So we've got a whole detoxing program to go through with teachers as well. But up here, that's where we want to get to the green. This is called the Peers Test. And it's a simple test that all of you should take. And I'm going to be launching a website called Peers Test Lite here very soon for all of you, where you can take a biblical worldview test to test your own knowledge. And I'm excited about it. But also, this is what we have to do, start testing our kids in their biblical worldview knowledge. Next slide. And then I have a how-to guide, which you can get on our website. I might have a couple here if anybody wants one, and some magazines available. An amazing magazine from the JBS group. Next slide. We have a newsletter. Please sign up for our newsletter. And again, you can get a consultation. Next slide. And that's it. And God bless you. And I hope that my time here was very productive to see results in this area. God bless you.
Questions?
Oh,
Questions?
I'll ask one.
Gary, do you have a question?
I'm curious if you know, if the governor vetoes a bill and the legislator doesn't like the veto, how long does it take him to get back and vote again and override the veto?
The next cycle. So in January is when they introduce all the bills again. So if the bill was already written and he vetoed it, they'll probably just change a few words and resubmit it in a different way. They keep doing that all the time anyway. Yeah.
Other questions? Yes, Helen?
What are the three ministries?
The three
Repeat that.
ministries. Yes, the three that I'm talking about. The three that I'm talking about here today are SALT. Here, we'll just write this down. www.saltandlight, L-I-G-H-T, council, COUNCIL.org. And I know that's a lot. Salt and Light Council, but when you get into there, you're going to see a suite of ministries. They all do different things. Today, I only spoke on three. One was Salt and Light, which was to come to our training and get trained to be Salt and Light in your church. So that's getting your church involved to have a governmental ministry that will pray for leaders in authority above us, because how are you going to pray for them if you don't even know who they are? Get educated in biblical worldview, take action on issues in legislation, and get involved in every aspect of elections, including running people from that church for office, helping to fund them into office, and working the polls and doing all that from the church. The church better get its bow-hiney in gear, and it's needing you to be the catalyst to see your church involved. So that's Salt and Light. And then Biblical Voter are the voter tools, the voter guides, and that little booklet that helps you to have a decent conversation with your Christian Democrat friends. Okay? You need to have a come to Jesus with them. And then public school exit.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. Yes.
I came here today because I was thinking about starting my own ministry, right? Or I don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I was just wondering, what is the basic difference, between Salt and Light and Family Research Council?
Sure. Family Research Council, Tony Perkins was over at my house. I gave him a purple brochure and he liked it so much they started Culture Impact.
Okay.
And it's okay, the more the merrier. They're a very powerful organization. I like Tony Perkins a lot. I love what they do. They do things differently.
A little differently.
Yeah, everybody, there's a few out there, but I have to say Salt and Light Council has been around the longest. We were based on Focus on the Family. Ministry was called Salt and Light Ministry, and we changed it to Salt and Light Biblical Citizenship because we wanted to include Rick Green's Biblical Citizenship, Constitution courses, and get more education in there. So it's not just about being involved in politics. It's about education too, because it's like think of a house on a concrete foundation, okay? And the concrete foundation is tipped up in the middle, and the house is starting to crack apart. So we're up there fixing the windows and the roof, right? But the real problem is the foundation. If you don't fix the foundation,
it's the parents and the children.
Right?
The parents and the pastors.
Correct. So
yes.
we're saying let's roll it all back in for the church.
Yeah.
And get these people re-educated in what is going on in America and what's your heritage?
So what if your church is already conservative, doing their part? I homeschooled forever. I turned out my
Good
kids
job.
are, yeah.
Good job.
Me and my daughter went to law school.
Yes.
Yeah, me and my children went to law school together.
Oh
Yes, we
wow, good for
graduated
you.
together. Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that I get it. Now I'm just trying to figure it out.
Sure. Well, if you have a church, and that's
Yeah.
good to hear that you have a church that has some involvement in
Not all of
government.
those.
Here's what you need to look at. Is there an organized group inside the church? If there's not, then It's just error. When the pastor is speaking from the pulpit and says, hey, we gotta do something, do you know how many people actually do that? Like a handful. But when you have, well, sometimes, it depends on what it is. But, you know, it depends on what it is. Okay, if you have somebody there, a physical presence at the church, when the pastor says, hey, we want you to go to the Salt and Light group, and we want you to get involved with them because they're working on this bill and that bill, and we need you to do this, that, and the other thing, and it's an organized effort, that's when you see real
Well,
impact.
I'm gonna call you.
Please,
Yeah.
that would be
My
nice.
name's Anita.
Anita?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so
Okay.
much. It sounds like fun. It'd be great. Great to know you.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
One more question, Sandra? And you can talk to her after when we have our break.
Are you working at all with Craig Huey?
Oh, I love Craig Huey.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because he's very
Yeah,
popular
Craig
in
Huey
our
does a
area.
wonderful voter guide. In fact, he does a judge. Again, biblicalvoter.com has a collection of all the top voter guides in the nation. Of course, Craig Huey is going to be on that. So even as judge, but he makes me look good, frankly. So on the website, when people see judge voter guide, I go, yes, that made us look good, but really it's Craig Huey.
And then also,
Is Craig listening?
is anybody putting your booklets in the, I think they're called the free little libraries or something?
No.
We need someone in the area.
Well, if you want to do that, go for it. You know, I mean, that would be a blessing. You know, our libraries are, wouldn't send my kid to a library without parental, you know, supervision.
Yeah.
I mean, the Drag Queen Story Hour, I was actually at a protest down here at the Children's Museum. They were having, they had a Drag Queen Story Hour. And, you know, I did my first street preaching there with a boombox and preaching the gospel, but it was crazy. What is that all about, where you have men dressed up so bizarrely as women? I mean, what's wrong with these men? Be men. Be men. We women need some men out there that are worth, that are worth something. We want our men to be men, not sissies. Anyway.
Well,
Good?
yes. Thank you very much. Let's give her a hand, everybody. Dran, Reese, thank you for coming all this way and inspiring us to get in touch with our churches.